Jeff Surber, Operations Section Chief with Great Basin Team 1. Today we're going to talk again about the Grizzly fire, starting in the same place, down here on I-70 near No Name Creek. Again, this area of the fire, as it was yesterday, is not showing much activity at all. We still have not quite got to the point where we're looking at turning that line black. I talked a little bit about what goes into that yesterday. So today we will continue up to Windy Point. We have a little structure up on Windy Point that we're going to probably put some retardant around in case this crosses up drainage. As you'll recall, we have a good line and we had a lot of pump and hose work down in here to stop the fire. But beyond that, our dozer line comes down. You can kind of see it over here. It ends on a ridge top right there. What we propose is that when we kind of feel like this fire will eventually make its way across No Name and want to come up that side, and that's why we have it locked in with the dozer line that comes up to Windy Point right here. So the idea is that as this fire creeps across in the inaccessible portion of the canyon where we couldn't push people farther north, that we'll have a catch right up here on top of the rim. There's old fires up here, there's aspen, there's other things that allow us to get in there and work more effectively than we can down in the bottom. So it'll pick up a timber stringer or two probably and make a run up to the top. It'll spot over the top like it has other portions of the fire, and I would expect that we'd be able to catch the fire up on top because of it gets off the slope driven runs and gets into the flats where it's easier for us to catch it. Our proposed line, you can kind of see it on here. We have proposed dozer line all the way out in this manner, all the way back over to Coffee Pot. So the reason behind that is because this dark line you can see on the map is Grizzly, and you can kind of see that it remains inaccessible all the way out to here. So all we can do is try to encircle this piece of fire that we think will eventually get up there, barring rain or another weather event that stops it prior to its forward march up to the north. We're way out miles in front of it, preparing a line so that we can stop it eventually if and when it gets that far north. The same thing in No Name. As No Name comes up, though, you can kind of tell by the topography on the map, this is much darker, topographic lines much closer, which means much steeper. As you come up No Name, it starts to flatten out more and it splits into multiple drainages. So if we find an opportunity that is not this large where we could come across No Name and then hook back into this and minimize the spread up No Name, we may do that, but at this point we haven't found that yet. So this is our proposed dozer and road, pretty much connecting the dots out there, so to speak, to get all the way around where we expect that fire to eventually go. But the main reason we prefer dozer lines when we can use them is because of the faster production rate, the wider line, and the ability to move vehicles on that dozer line. We can, depending on the terrain, we can drive engines down that dozer line. We can use UTVs with tanks on them, move personnel with UTVs. So it makes things happen a lot faster than if it's just handline where all you can do is walk people on it. So you can imagine, we do that in terrain that doesn't allow for the use of heavy equipment, but it takes a lot longer for all those folks to carry everything they need and then walk back out every day and that. So that's the main reason we use dozer line. Moving over to Coffee Pot area, we have dozer line here. As you can see, this fire's kind of running its course as it comes up out of those canyons. We expect it to stop in some places on its own, and we've constructed a little bit of line out there in case it doesn't stop that we can work off of. From Coffee Pot back over to Highway 7 or I-70, it's starting to look real good, but basically we do have some black line on this map that isn't shown on this particular map I'm in front of. So we're feeling real confident with Coffee Pot spike all the way back to I-70. We're starting to move those resources that we had working on this piece of line over into what we call Division Quebec, which is farther up north. and then we've moved them into here to complete this section of line from Coffee Pot over towards Grizzly, just towards the rim rock on Grizzly. I think I explained yesterday, as it comes up Grizzly, if it tries to come out again, as it comes up the drainage, we have ways to catch it as it comes up those side drainages and catch it up on top. So that's our intent there. Coming down into the Bear Ranch area, last night, the night before last, we had we built line in here and burned out. You can kind of see a little finger of red right there. That is fire that was lit purposely to back down towards the Spruce Creek drainage and lock in this corner. You can see dozer line here comes back down above the structures on the in the Spruce Creek drainage. This fire backed down nicely to the dozer line last night. During the night, we were prepared to burn, and it backed into our fire line so effectively that nobody ever actually had to let it burn. It burned down to the dozer line, starting to get the fire much more secure between. In the Spruce Creek drainage, we still have some work in the Ike Creek drainage above the main Bear Ranch structures to get that locked in and tied into where we feel more comfortable with this whole corner of the fire. That could occur today or tonight, and hopefully we'll be successful at capturing this east side that gave us problems and has given us problems for several days. Moving over to Division Zulu, which is pretty much this top portion that's a flat top, basically, it's the rim rock right here where the fire wants to start. As I talked about before, we have a lot of dozer line that's been built out there. We're now going pretty much direct. People walk in, put out the fire on the ground with the aid of engines, and when the engines can't get hose close enough to the spot fires, they'll call for a helicopter and they'll come and drop water, and then they'll mix it up and put out the spot fires, and that's pretty much what's going on over here and all along in Zulu. Lastly, Division Alpha goes from the area where this dozer line right here leaves the fire and goes this way. The direct Division Alpha is this piece of fire that drops from this point here where the dozer line breaks off down into I-70 corridor. So the lower part right down, the real steep stuff that people are probably familiar with, you can see it from the highway. We haven't seen any smoke or fire on that stuff that's pretty much inaccessible for multiple days, probably 4 or 5 days, 6 days maybe even, in that lower part that we'll never put boots on the ground in. From the power pole, there's a major power pole that comes up on a power line, and it's real prominent up on the top. You can see it from both sides when people are hiking, as well as when you're driving up the I-70 corridor. You can look up and see a major power pole. If you're familiar with where that is, that would be where this red dot is right here. So from that power pole back up here, we have about 1.5 miles to 2 miles of open perimeter. We're bringing heavy equipment in and starting to build line downhill there. I talked the other day about not wanting to put people into doing downhill line construction when there's fire below them. We do have some heat below them. What we've done is yesterday we used the portable retardant plant down on the highway. We pelted this heavily with retardant from buckets on heavy helicopters to knock it down even more and cool it off. And we have a flight scheduled for today, an infrared flight to determine exactly how much heat is on this piece of line. But the folks out there feel comfortable putting feller bunchers and other heavy equipment into this top portion and starting to make their way down. They've taken this road that you can see on the map with UTVs and gone and looked at the edge of the fire, and they're just planning a 2 to 3 day operation to get in here with heavy equipment and crews and try to tie off this piece of line direct so that we can remove the potential for it to continue to spread towards Glenwood Springs and south. So to explain kind of what's going on with our proposed, or actually some of this dozer line has been built, and then what we plan to do from the Lookout Park area down towards town. We connected mostly roads in here, existing roads, and we improved them with the bulldozers to use as fire line. And then from Lookout Park down towards town, all we plan to do is utilize the existing trail that's in there, possibly improve it a little bit with hand tools, And then brush, we'll be cutting some brush with chainsaws, some of the oak brush and that kind of thing to make it more defensible as we come down through there back towards town. So we've held up our dozers at the Lookout Park area. We'll keep them around in case they're needed for any other line cutting purposes in this area, but we hope to be successful with this line that we're completing in there and starting, and it'll be, like I say, a 2 to 3 day job just to get the line in, and then we'll monitor that for an extended period to make sure that we knock down all the heat. Once the portable batch plant or retardant plant over here on the highway goes away, probably in a couple of days, then we still have helicopter support with water buckets in here. But while we have that in place, we're utilizing it heavily there because retardant is more effective than water. And again, yesterday we had a new start south of our fire, about 3 miles down off of Road 115. Through a lot of great effort of our air attack and all of our aircraft, our air attack that's over the fire spotted the new start. And what an air attack does is they coordinate all the aircraft that are in the air at any point in time, and they're always circling above the fire, coordinating helicopters and fixed wing retardant and all the air operations, reconnaissance missions. And he spotted a new smoke, and so he responded over there, brought all the aircraft from our fire over there, and brought more aircraft out of Grand Junction, fixed wing retardant, and put the herd on it, and it ended up at about 50 acres. We sent a lot of ground resources over there, so it was fortunate that we were in the area already with all the aircraft we had, and no structures were lost. And it was held to approximately 50 acres. So that's kind of something I talked about before. We have this, what we call a structure/IA group initial attack, that is set up to respond to things like that within an area that we've been given that they'd like us to cover, because they know that we have the ability to send some resources and get to fires quicker within a certain geographic area around our fire than they would if they were trying to send local resources that are out at stations that are farther away than what we have. So that was a huge success. It was a well-coordinated effort. The local fire departments also responded, and it got knocked down within probably an hour to an hour and a half, and it did get up to 50 acres in the oak brush, and it had some winds pushing it, and then we received a little bit of rain after it was knocked down and settled down, and we started to feel a little more comfortable with it. Then we had a rain shower that came through for about 15 minutes, and we had folks on it all night. We plan to have folks back over there today, still working that fire, make sure it has no potential to sneak out again. That's what I have for today. Thank you.
Perfect.